Back now with stunning revelations in the new book on President Trump from Bob Woodard, the award-winning journalist revealing what some of the top national security advisors really think of the president. And here's how they described him on the record. Former Defense Secretary James Mattis saying in the book titled Rage that Trump is, quote, dangerous, unfit, and has no moral compass. And Trump's former Director of National Intelligence, Dan Coats, saying the president, quote, doesn't know the difference between the truth and a lie. Joining me now is legendary journalist and CNN political analyst Carl Bernstein, who, of course, broke the Watergate scandal with Bob Woodard in a series of reports. Carl, thank you so much for being with us today. Just tell us what your reactions are to the revelations that we're learning of.
It's stunning, and I think we all need to take a deep breath and understand exactly what it is we have learned. We are listening to the President of the United States on tape, deliberately undermining the security of the national security of the United States, the health and well-being of the people of the United States. And he's doing this knowingly, in real time. It is the smoking gun of his negligence. And as those quotes you were talking about from Mattis and others, demonstrating his unfitness to be the president, but more than anything, instead of leveling with the country, he covers up. We listen to him cover up this grave national emergency. This is one of the great presidential felonies of all time, maybe the greatest presidential felony. And we have the smoking gun tape of the president committing the felony.
There are recordings, like you said. There is this smoking gun tape. It will be hard for the president to deny what he said, but I think we already got a preview of what's going to happen coming from the White House press briefing today as Kayleigh McEnany lied and also just threw out a lot of information, some of which was inaccurate, some of which was misleading. There's going to be a full assault coming from the White House on what is in this book.
Yes, there will be, and it's up to Republicans especially to counter that lie. At this point, if the Republican leadership, McConnell, McCarthy, and others try to contradict this obvious, grave dereliction of duty by the President of the United States that is captured on tape, they too are responsible for what has happened here. Look, let's talk about what this really is. This is a kind of homicidal negligence. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people have lost their lives because the president put his own reelection interest, as we hear in the tapes and see throughout Bob's book, that he is putting his own narrow presidential reelection efforts in front of the safety, health, and well-being of the people of the United States. We've never had a president who's done anything like this before. 6 days, 7 days after he was told about the gravity of this pandemic and its potential and the pathogens and what has been unleashed in the air, he had the State of the Union address like Roosevelt would have done, any other great American president, any other competent, concerned American president would have gone before the State of the Union and the Congress and said, we have an enemy such as we have never seen, and we have a national emergency, and we must join together and fight. And instead, on tape, time after time after time, and through the narrative of Bob Woodward's book, we see the president put his narrow, own, selfish interest ahead of the health of the people of this country, their safety. It is a dereliction of duty recorded as no other presidential dereliction of duty has been, even more so than the Nixon tapes in this instance. So it's going to be very hard to see how this cannot be addressed by Republicans in particular and their candidate for president of the United States. The last time this happened, during the end of Nixon's presidency, the Republican leadership, including Barry Goldwater, the 1964 nominee of his party for president, went to the White House and told Nixon he had to resign. And the facts here are even graver than in Watergate.
You are aware, of course, this is coming on the heels just a few days after this Atlantic report, that the president had called fallen American war heroes losers and suckers, and a bunch of other disparaging things that he said about those who serve and have served in the military. And in this book, Woodward writes that an aide to Mattis, to the defense secretary, heard Trump say in the Oval Office, quote, "My effing generals are a bunch of P words. They care more about their alliances than they do about trade deals," which sort of plays on some of even what we've heard him say coming out against his defense officials, his military leaders, as opposed to trying to, cover his tracks with the rank and file military. But what's the effect of the revelations in this book being coupled with the revelations, which have been confirmed by numerous outlets, about what Trump has said about the military?
Bob Woodward's book is the definitive account of Donald Trump's negligent presidency. And the negligence in terms of how he views the military leaders of this country, what we saw in the Atlantic and what we see in Bob's book combined, is once again the big lie is Donald Trump and the con man front that he has put on throughout his life and through his presidency. Page after page after page, on tape after tape after tape. There's more than 20 hours of tape that Bob has gotten here that can be listened to. And what you hear time and time again is the president forgetting about the national interest, selling out the national interest, minimizing the national interest, and putting in his own interest, that of his family, that of his own finances, everything but the sake of the country itself and the well-being of its people and its institutions. He has undermined our well-being. That is the text of this book, not a subtext. It is the text of those tapes, undermining our well-being deliberately for his own ends. It is stunning, and as I say, a presidential felony unlike any other that we know of in our history. And it's up to us in the press now to start putting this into the context of history as well, and calling in the historians, and calling in the Republicans and saying, well, what about this? What happened here? What did this president do that is captured on these tapes that are even more devastating than Nixon's tapes?
Carl, thank you so much. Carl Bernstein, we really appreciate you joining us.
Good to be with you.